Welcome, everyone, to the Voice of Meaning. I'm very honored and privileged to have Sabine with me, who is doing very meaningful and significant work currently in Austria. I was very impressed when I met Sabine 12 and a half years ago. She gave a wonderful talk. I don't remember too much about the talk, but I remember how I felt, and I was very inspired to study more about Viktor Frankl after listening to that talk. So tell first of all, how are you? And tell us some about your values and what you do in the area of logotherapy.
Well, first of all, I'm doing very well, especially because I'm very happy and honored to be on the Voice of Meaning, and I'm very much looking forward to this chat that we are having now and talking about my favorite topic of all topics, logotherapy in all its forms and facets. What I personally, or where I personally apply logotherapy, is in my work, because I work with people who have or experience difficulty in experiencing meaning at work or finding meaning in their work. They might have had it at one point and then kind of lost it. But what's more often than not, the people are they have great jobs. Like from the outside looking in, you would think, and they themselves think this way, that I have a wonderful career, I have a great job, and yet I feel that there's something missing or something's not quite right. And but they don't really know what's wrong. And this is when in a lot of cases it has something to do with that they no longer find meaning or see meaning in what they are doing, and working with them, rediscovering meaning at work is one of my main focuses in all my work related things. And for me personally, I I really try to it sounds a bit big and philosophical, but I really try to live logotherapy because I feel that if someone applies the basic ideas of Frankl and the basic ideas Frankl put into logotherapy to their own lives, then we are so much better equipped to answer the questions that life is constantly asking us. And what that means basically is how we deal with the challenges, how we approach other people, how our concept of the human person, I think is a lot different if we are coming from a logotherapeutic perspective. And this is what I really try to integrate into my day-to-day life and in all my interactions.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, can you give me an example? I know your work in HR of how these principles have helped somebody who, say, was in the psychologist would say, an existential crisis at work.
Um, yeah, that one example that always comes to mind is quite an old one. So it's like maybe 10 or 15 years ago when I was not really very deep into logotherapy back then. But I already was in the process of training with Elizabeth Lucas, and it was actually a coworker of mine. She was a very young woman. She just had finished her studies, and she had worked as a student employee in our company. And then when she finished her studies, she became a junior consultant. We were a consultancy, and she really felt not appreciated in her work role partly probably because she had started out as a student and now she was a consultant, but some all still viewed her as the young, inexperienced student. And she especially felt underappreciated by her manager, and she really had a very hard time dealing with that because she wanted to change the manager, and my training with Elisabeth Lucas made it so abundantly clear that she had to she couldn't change the manager, but she could change her attitude, her perspective, and I feel that that's a very very helpful thing to learn, especially at the workplace, that it's not the others that need to change, but it's something that you can change, or if you can't change it, you can always change your perspective, and to me that directly relates to one of the or to one of the logotherapeutic principles of when Frankl talks about the creative values, the experiential values, and the attitudinal values. Like when you're able to do something, please do something. And sometimes life is just asking us of experiencing a wonderful situation, or like the great sunset, or the nature, or mountains, or music, or art. And sometimes we can't really change anything, and there's nothing really to experience there, but what the last of our freedoms that we always have is how we choose our attitude towards something that we can't change. And so this was something that I was able to in a way make her understand and realize with one of my favorite um, exercises that Elisabeth Lucas taught us, and she called it taking a walk among the stars, and she was always talking about the starry skies of possibilities. And it's the main idea is that there are always things that you cannot change, like how someone treats you. You can't choose that. That's fateful. That's happening to you. But there's always this huge field and this huge area of freedom where you do have options and where you do have possibilities. And she talked about it as the starry sky of possibilities. And so what I did with my coworker was we were actually using paper stars, and I made her write different options on these stars and put them on the floor. And I even encouraged her to write down options that she knew she would never ever realize, because I find it so important to make, in this case, her realize that coming from her values, coming from her background, she instantly knows that there are some options that she technically or theoretically could realize, but that her values would never let her realize. And so we wrote down something like punching the manager in the face when he says something, and she, just like you now do, she was laughing out loud because she said, yeah, I could do that, but I know I would never, that's just not who I am. But yeah, I could do that. And so we put down all the different options, how she could deal with the situation, and how she could also change her role and change her attitude. And we had a lot of different stars. And I also liked what Elisabeth Lucas then said. She said, and then take a walk among the stars and really walk from one star to the other, because eventually one star will shine the brightest. And I think it's such a poetic and such a nice image to illustrate how at some point you just know what the most meaningful answer to this question will be, because yeah, there are a lot of options, but eventually you can in logotherapy we would call it your conscience, or your voice of conscience. You in other, you could also say your intuition, your inner wisdom, whatever you want to call it. But at some point you will just know, this is the one that I want to realize. And then you take this from the realm of possibility and make it a reality, and then you realize it, and then this is how you answer the question that life is asking you. And the manager will still be the manager that he always was, but it changed a lot for you, and it gave you it gave you back agency, that you are not a helpless victim of circumstances and stupid managers, but that there is something you can do, and that it's on you to find meaning in what you do, and especially in how you do it. So that was one example.
So this person, did it help?
It helped, yeah. It really helped, because she realized that it might take some time to eventually show people that she no longer was the student that she had been for such a long time. And by taking on an active role in various projects, and by asking for having, I think one of her options was to ask to have a very specific project role in one of the projects that gave her a lot of responsibility, but also a lot of ways to show her experience and what she knew. And it eventually even changed how the manager viewed her, and she felt that he became more appreciative. I don't know if he really changed, but at least it was her perception that by really standing behind her expertise, others began to realize that she no longer was the student and treated her differently.
So, kind of to sum up, attitude is a core value, and often we can't change our circumstances, but we can change our attitude. And
Exactly.
My wife, who has gone through logotherapy training, will remind me of that whenever I'm upset about something. She said, well, remember what Viktor Frankl would say, you can have a
Yeah.
better attitude. So
Yeah. And that's what I was kind of referring to when I said I try to live logotherapy, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's great if we have other people close to us who remind us, and sometimes we also need to remind ourselves that we are now trying to change circumstances that we can't change, but that we can always decide, is this the attitude I want to have towards this unchangeable fate, or is there something I could change by changing my perspective? Yeah.
this is incredible. Thank you, Sabine. In our chat earlier, you reminded me that next year will be the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II and the end of a lot of suffering. And in Viktor Frankl, in his very powerful book, Man's Search for Meaning, the first part of the book is how he went through this. And again, in any interview we've had with logotherapists, if you have not read Man's Search for Meaning, put it on your bucket list. It's very easy to acquire a copy. And when I do these interviews, I always feel if one person who hasn't read it reads it, it's a good thing. It's also available in audiobook. It's very, very easy to find this book. And Frankl, of course, in the face of being in concentration camp, was an expert on attitude and
Yeah.
an expert on dealing with your fate with your attitude. This is very, very important. Also,
Yes.
you're the third person that we interviewed with logotherapy that mentioned Elizabeth Lucas. And I know that when Dr. Franco was still alive, he felt that that Elizabeth Lucas was his greatest living. You're fortunate because she taught and wrote mostly in German, and you actually saw her and went to her classes. Was that correct?
Yes, yes,
Wonderful.
I studied with her. I did my logotherapy studies with Elizabeth Lucas, and
Mm-hmm.
I later on I also did the classes with the American Institute in Dallas because I felt it would be a good add on, and especially to to get more versed in the English logotherapy vocabulary. But my original training was with Elizabeth Lucas. Yes.
That's amazing. I'm going to add a couple of books that I read that were translated into English. One was called
Mhm.
Meaningful Living,
Yes.
and the other one is Meaning and Suffering.
Yes.
So, and she gave very poignant examples of how she helped specific people. And I now
Yes.
remember the stars. I'd forgotten about that analogy. And I think it's a great
Yes.
exercise when one feels frustrated, unappreciated, in a bad mood. Make your stars and write the things you can do, including punch the person in the nose that's causing the bad mood.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's that's great. I know that you're involved in managing a couple of Facebook groups.
Mhm.
Um, and what are they called? That the people who get together from all over the world connect with each other. Say again, I had no idea anything about logotherapy. I accidentally pushed the button and watched this interview. Which one of those organizations could they make a post saying, I would like to learn more about logotherapy? What would you do to help me?
First of all, I would suggest it's called Victor E. Frankl Logotherapy and Existential Analysis. That's the name of the Facebook group because it's the bigger Facebook group. So there are more people in it who
Mm-hmm.
might be able to help. And I feel that's really the place where we do get a lot of people who just came across Man's Search for Meaning, or maybe even just a quote by Frankl that they found interesting, or that made a quote that made them think or feel, well, that could be something that I would want to look deeper into. And our our group is supposed to be also for exactly these people who just, and you can really do that. Just come to the group, set and post. I've read, or I want to learn more about logotherapy. Who can help me, or what do you recommend? And we do get these postings, and our members are usually very, very eager and very happy to help. And I'm, as a moderator, I'm also trying to be there and answer and point into different directions, because it really depends. Some really want to do a formal training and a formal education. Then of course there are a lot of institutes where that offer these formal trainings. But I think for most of us, it's more about, I want to know more about it, and how does this relate to my life, my daily life, maybe even. And so then they don't want to do a formal training, but the Facebook group could be a good place to really see what other people are dealing with and how they approach it. And we get of course, the quotes and everything by Frankl, so we can have a discussion about specific topics. So there are
that's wonderful. Thank you for doing this. I know that it's a labor of love and that you spend a lot of time administering that, making sure that the content is safe and appropriate. And I'll definitely refer to that in the program notes, as well as Man's Search for Meaning, Elizabeth Lucas. I'm very thankful that you did decide to go to Dallas, because that's where I met you. And I think you're a wonderful example of helping people bring meaning to their lives. So let's say over the course of the years, a few million people watch this interview. Anything else that you would like to share about your values, about who you are?
I'm not sure I want to share about myself if I have the chance to talk to a million people or even more. But I think what can be helpful here is or actually two of my core values are freedom and responsibility. And I only realized that, and I only got the language to talk about this when I came across logotherapy, because what I feel is, and I think that a lot of people out in the world, of these millions that will eventually view this video, will maybe not in agreement that when I started training with Elizabeth Lucas, I felt, well, yeah, that's true, and I've known it all along. It really felt like coming home. It was something that I had on some level already known all my life. It felt like all my life, probably, probably not, but it felt very familiar, and it felt very, very, very true. But what I lacked until I came across logotherapy was the vocabulary, was the framework that Frankl provided us with, and the structure and the ideas. So finally, I felt I could talk about what I felt was just ancient human wisdom. I would never think that Frankl invented logotherapy. He just put together bits and pieces that were there all along, that people from ancient times and human beings from ancient times had found out to be true and helpful to live a good life, whatever that means to each and every one of us, and to live a meaningful life. So what I want to say probably is, please look into logotherapy, look into the basic ideas, look into search for meaning, Man's Search for Meaning, and especially with the English version, what I love is that the second part is logotherapy in a nutshell. And I feel that if each and every one of this 8 billion people on this planet would read Man's Search for Meaning and the logotherapy in a nutshell part, our world would be such a great place, because if we only succeed to implement a little bit of these ideas into our lives, not only our lives will become richer and more meaningful, but we will also live our lives in a way that is really meaningful for other people and for the world at large. And so what I want to say is, read Man's Search for Meaning and look into logotherapy just a little bit, take out what sounds right and true to you, and then live it. And I can almost guarantee that your life will be better for it, and not only for yourself, but also for the people around you.
Thank you, Sabine, for sharing your essence and your enthusiasm. It's been a real privilege to spend some time with you. Any other parting thoughts?
Um, I would love to welcome a lot of people into our world of the Facebook groups, because I feel it's really a good place to start. And what I find very encouraging, and I want to share it here, is what I realize is that over the past probably 6 months, we have a really strong we get a lot of member requests in our Facebook groups, much more than all the years before. So I feel that this is really a time where people are searching for meaning, and where they're asking themselves, how can I live a good life? And what does living a good life mean? What does it entail? So my parting thoughts would be, um, follow these questions that life is asking you, and try to find and give meaningful answers, and logotherapy might be able to help you with that.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Sabine.
Thank you.